Hit live. Go.
Yeah, guess what we're doing? Guess what we're doing? Yeah. Moosehead.
All right. So welcome back to Beer Analysis 101. And if you haven't, checked if your drink was drugged yet, we're doing Beer Analysis 101 this week with Moosehead Pale Ale. Of course, I'm your host, Maxwell Starr. We got a lovely panel here tonight consisting of Mr. Ashley Sexton. Ashley Sexton, how are you doing tonight?
Hey. It's okay. It's okay.
Rashly Sexton.
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. How are you?
Rashly Sexbeard?
What?
Anyway, hi, how you doing? Let's move over to the next one. Redbeard, how you doing tonight, Redbeard?
I'm not doing bad at all. What be going on, everybody?
Trying to stay sane. It's not working.
Probably not.
Speaking about insane, Mr. Off the 10th now. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. Something's wrong with my computer. Won't stop doing it. I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking around.
Yeah.
But I'm good. Thanks for having me on board.
For the night. Mm-hmm. James, Uncle Jamie's watching.
Yeah, I think everyone just had a...
we just lost all the viewers we had. We had a viewer. Oh, we got three.
We had one, but he had epilepsy. Now he's dead.
Lee Russell already's in there. Says, "What was that about the sex rash?" All right. So, of course, speaking of sex rashes, hey, Greg, how you doing tonight?
Oh, same old, Nick. I just closed the deal on another Etobicoke condo and a few sports cars. Can someone lend me toilet paper? It's not in my budget right now.
Anyway, moving along from these assholes, we are doing Moosehead Pale Ale, so I might as well get into the history while we wait for somebody to actually, watch this thing and post comments. I see there's 7 people watching now, so hi, how you doing? Leave a comment if you want to interact. We always read the comments on this show. Anyway,
maybe today I'll read them.
Yeah, maybe today Greg will not read them. Anyway, so Moosehead Pale Ale. Now this might seem like a repeat of a couple of weeks ago because we obviously looked at Moosehead 2 weeks ago when we did their London Stout, but we're going to take a look at one of their most staple classic products. So we'll go hugely into detail, but Moosehead traces its origins to August 1867 when Susanna Oland started the Turtle Grove Brewery in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, which after her death, control passed to her son, George W.C. Oland, in 1885, and it through several fires, sailed to a British syndicate, and ultimately starting again from scratch. George W.C. led the company up until the Halifax explosion devastated the area of Halifax in December of 1917. After that explosion, it was feared that the rebuilding of the city would take too long for the company to survive, and in 1918, with the insurance money from the explosion, George W.C. purchased the Simeon Jones Red Ball Brewery in St. John.
I prefer Simeon.
Yeah, right. Of course you do. Sending his son George Bald Oland to just returned from serving in World War I to run the brewery, while he and his other son Sidney rebuilt the Halifax Brewery, which they did rebuild the Halifax Brewery when it would go on to become the Oland Brewery in Halifax, famous for the schooner and also ownership of the Alexander Keith's lines of beers up until they were bought out by Labatt. Enough said. So in 1928, the name of the brewery turned into New Brunswick Breweries and expanded by purchasing the James Ready brewery in the nearby town of Fairvale, which is today's west side of St. John. While sorting through the files from the buyout, George C. Oland discovered one of James Ready's unused trademarks, the very Canadian-sounding name of Moosehead. In 1931, Moosehead Pale Ale was launched, becoming popular enough that the brewery changed its name for the last time in 1947 to Moosehead, and followed it up with the more popular and well-known classic Moosehead Lager for export to the U.S. market in 1977. Today, Moosehead is still a family-owned and operated company under the command of Andrew Oland as CEO, and Labatt, Molson, and Sleeman's, all under foreign ownership, is currently the largest independent brewery owned solely by a Canadian. So they're the largest Canadian independent-owned brewery. The brewery is still located at the original site of the James Ready Brewery on St. John's west side. And of course, other beers from Moosehead include the Alpine Lager, Moosehead Lager, Moose Light, Moose Radler. They've also got that the small batch series that they just came out with, the small batch brewery, which includes a reincarnation of their classic 10 penny, their London Stout, October Brown Ale, and some others. They also brew beer for Hop City and James Ready brands, as well as having the Canadian distribution rights for Samuel Adams beers. And it's funny, I get talking about the whole buyout of was it 1928 when they bought James Ready Brewery, because my glass tonight is a vintage 1978 anniversary glass celebrating the 50th anniversary of the James Ready purchase. So that's holy 40-year-old glass.
It's a pretty snazzy glass.
Snazzy. Found in Valley Village. Anyway, so Moosehead Pale Ale is a 5% ABV, 20 IBU pale ale, which Moosehead bills as a remarkably smooth European-influenced taste, whatever that means. As Moosehead Pale Ale donned a red label for much of its existence, and in contrast to the green bottle of Moosehead Lager, it is affectionately known throughout the Maritimes as Moose Red. So if you ever hear me or Lee calling Moose Green or Moose Red, then we're talking about the comparison between the lager and the pale ale. So moving right along, let's get to see if there's any more comments. There are a few in there. Let's see. Who do I want to victimize into reading the comments today? Redbeard, do you want to read them?
Sure, man.
Can you see them from where you're at?
I absolutely can.
All right.
Lee had said, what was that about the sex rash? That was kind of a little bit of a interesting thing when I joined into the thing, and Nick was saying something about Ashley, and Nick misspoke a bit. It was just a funny thing. Sexton. And then actually kind of described the name. We weren't name shaming.
I was saying hello to Ashley Sexton at the same time you jumped in, so I went Rashley Sexton.
Yeah.
And
then the Rashbeard happened.
Rashbeard came afterwards.
Ring of Your Parade says he truly is off the 10th tonight, and maybe a little off the wall as well.
Ooh, crazy.
And it says Yoli. Eric Gilbert is in here. Eric says cheers. And then Craig from Kent Beer Reviews says cheers, keep warm, guys. Yeah, it's like minus 25 or something here right now.
It's fucking frozen.
It'd be chilly.
It'd be chilling.
It'd be way chilly.
Right on. Speaking of chilling, Ashley, what's your history with Moosehead?
Moosehead in general, I've had plenty of Moosehead Lager. Moosehead Pale Ale, the first and only time I've had it before this was when we were supposed to review it a few weeks ago.
I think it was a few months ago at this point. Why the delay?
We said nobody showed up, so we ended up, except for Greg.
I'm a somebody.
Yeah. Got to keep in mind, at least Greg was here.
And I remember I had to buy a case of like a 12-pack of it because that was the only size I could find. And then I think something came up with me from work and some shit, and I couldn't jump on. So I've already choked down about 12 of these in the past, and back onto the I was able to find a smaller format this time, thank God.
Yeah.
Hey. That's my history.
Nice.
It's all your fault.
That's fine. I'll accept the blame for nobody showing up last time. All right. Anyway, moving right along to Mr. Redbeard. What's your history with this beer?
I am forming my history with this beer currently as I drink it because I've never had it before. Like I said, like during the Moosehead London Porter one or London Stout story, Moosehead's just never really been a go-to for me. So this one's, I bought it for this purpose, and it's being drank.
There you go. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
No problem.
Speaking of coming on the 10th.
Ew. Anyway,
or I suppose Chris, coming off the 10th now.
Mr. Chris.
You want? Yeah. Oh, yeah. None. That's whatsoever on the pale. I've never had it, but watch his magic trick. Ready?
Oh my God. Chris, you're on fire. Someone call the fire.
Yeah, because that was for the explosions. Explosions everywhere.
Did you shake it up?
No, I didn't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Actually, I've never had this beer. I've had plenty of Moosehead lagers, but never had the pale ale. So this is I'm like Redbeard on this one. I haven't had it, so we're gonna analyze this one. Analysis this one for sure.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Greg.
Chris, don't ever scare us like that again. We thought you exploded your face. Oh my god. Oh my god. Now I really need that toilet paper.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've apparently had this beer once before in 2017, but I don't even care. I'm just happy Chris is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good, Greg.
We're close. Myself with. Anyway, going with the beer history, well, I think I can elaborate a little bit more than anybody else here can when it comes to Moosehead Pale Ale, because Moosehead Pale Ale is actually the first beer I remember drinking. The first time I ever had this, I'm not exactly sure when, but it brings back memories of back in the 80s or early 90s or something when my dad used to play ball. I remember him giving me a taste of the Moosehead Pale Ale he was drinking. And he's not much of a beer drinker. He'll drink one socially if people offer him one. But it just happened to be one of those times like he had the bottle sitting there, and I think he let me have a sip. And I just remember the distinctive taste of that. And when I first got into drinking beers, this is one of the first beers that I actually got into. I think my first time I ever got drunk was off of Alpine, but this one here was not far from the top of the list when it came to the first beers that I tried. And it's been one of those beers that had just been a go-to for me over the years. And admittedly, it's been a little bit since I had it. I mean, I bought a 12-pack of it back before we were supposed to do it about a month or two ago. But before that, it had been a bit since the last time I bought it. And of course, they've also changed the labels, so they're not technically Moose Red anymore, except for this one red highlight. But as far as the history with doing beers reviews with it, this was actually review number 2. So that's how far back it goes into like the history of Maxwell Stars beer reviews. It's like this was my second beer review ever. Ooh, fancy. So yeah, I got an extensive history with this one. Anyway, I don't think we have any more comments.
The beer burglar said hello, Red Beard, in the comments. That was nice of him.
Yeah, it was nice of him. Careful, he might steal your beard.
Nah.
Probably stick his dick in it.
Spray it with the contents of the dick.
Oh,
Nice.
Well,
Guys, come on.
you did prefer semen or Simeon.
All right, that's how professional we're
All
gonna
right,
keep
yeah.
it, aren't we?
Let's go. We ruined it ever since we started the intro there. We were flipping around.
What? You told me to do that.
I know I did. So it's technically my fault.
He told you to do the Zoomy thing, man. You just ruined it. You went all crazy.
No, it was fine. Anyway, yeah. So I guess we move over to our thoughts. What do you think, Ashley? I better write these down.
Are you ready?
I guess there's no comments to read.
So I thought it was funny when you mentioned that it was European inspired, because it's sort of my thought on this beer, right? Like from the first aroma through to the sip, everything about this ale reminds me of a lager. You know what I mean? Like the aroma itself is very like mineral. It's got like a sort of a mineral character to it, like slightly sulfuric. Sort of like those like typical lager aromas. There's no hop excitement whatsoever in this. So I mean, a pale ale, I'm looking for something that, you know, at least aroma wise, you're getting some sort of hop presence. You know, whether or not it's piney, citrus, tropical, whatever it may be. There's so many different variations of a pale ale that you can come across that, you know, that aren't going to be overly bitter, but they're going to have nice hop flavors to them without being overly bitter. So aroma-wise, yeah, it just smells like a generic lager. I mean, it pours great. The head sort of retains itself pretty well. You know, it's crystal clear like a lager. There's nothing about it that even looks like a pale ale. Taste-wise, yeah, it's smooth. It's very easy drinking. Carbonation's pretty good. Doesn't make me too burpy or, you know, gassy or anything like that. But again, the hop bitterness is very muted. It's very bland. It's very generic. The hop flavor is it's the same fucking note. You know, it's just blah all the way through. It's just like, a touch of earthy bitterness, and then that's really about it. Malt sort of comes through a little bit on the taste, but hey, it's an easy drinking beer. It tastes a little bit better than like your generic macro lager. It's got a little bit more to it. Like the malt sort of comes through a touch more on the sip, but other than that, it's a fancy lager calling itself a pale ale. So for style, I'm just going to give this a 4 out of 10 because if I was to do this blindfolded, I wouldn't be able to pick out that this was a pale ale. For personal enjoyment, I'll give it a 6. I could drink more of these, no problem. It's not a terrible beer. It's just, blah.
Fair enough. All right, Redbeard, you're up.
How the hell am I supposed to follow that? Like, my God. Like, basically one of the last things he said, it's a pale ale that's basically, it's not a pale ale. It's like a fancy lager. Like, you'd never know. Like, I've had a lot of pale ales and a lot of English-style pale ales. They're very different. This is not like either one of those styles that I've ever had. Again, it's not bad. It's like, again, echoing Ashley, it's easy drinking, smooth, but it just comes off as like some kind of adjunct lager. Like, I feel like if I had this and regular Moosehead in a glass next to it, the difference would be incredibly subtle and almost undetectable. So for style, I'm giving this a 2. This is a garbage pale ale. As far as pale ale goes, it's garbage. But enjoyment, I'll give it a 6.5.
Yeah, fair enough. Let me stop making my graphic and then actually write down your score. So that was 2 and a 6.5, 6.5 or 6?
Yes, sir. 6.5. A generous 6.5.
No doubt.
All right, and moving over to Mr. No Doubt himself, Chris.
Okay,
Gwen Stefani.
Let me tell you something. If I got a feeling that Moosehead either fucked up their canning on this one or they're making the same beer and putting it in 2 different cans. It's exactly what this beer is. This is exactly, and it tastes exactly like Moosehead lager. I'm sorry, it does. This is not, in my opinion, see what I did there?
Your opinion.
A pale ale at all. This is a macro lager that tastes like fucking corn syrup, just like every other fucking macro lager does.
This is basically the pale ale, like Alexander Keith's is an India pale ale. Same kind of thing.
Yeah. So this, for me,
I can see that
it's a joke. This is a joke from Moosehead, and I'm not finding it funny whatsoever. I'll be honest with you. For style on this one, this is getting a 1 for me on this one. And for personal enjoyment, I don't mind Moosehead, but I kind of wanted something different on this one, and it failed my expectations. So therefore, I am giving this a 4 out of 10 on personal enjoyment.
This beer is doing great.
I'm shitting on this beer because you know what, guys? This beer is shit. My own opinion. Thank you.
Oh, sorry if your own opinion is shit. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. Wow. All right, and another opinion from Mr. Greg. What do you think, Mr. Greg?
Yeah, you guys are being awfully mean to this beer. I mean, Jesus, it's nothing to write home about, but God, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not a fucking Fuller's Vintage Ale or any shit like that. Yeah, it's style. I'm gonna agree. It's not great. I don't think you need to go as low as a 1. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I've had way worse pale ales than this, but it's really more like a more flavorful lager. It's really not great to the style. So I you know what? I think a 4 is fair. It's not quite a pass on style because it doesn't quite hit the mark. But again, I've had way worse styles from much smaller breweries. And in terms of personal enjoyment, I don't mind it. Like I say, this isn't really what I'd reach for if I'm in the mood. I don't really like pale ales to begin with. I'll just go for an IPA anyway. But if I want something a little more flavorful, no, I'm not going to reach for this. But you know what? If Nick took me to his pool and gave me a few of these to drink by the pool in the summertime, or he gave me a choice, let's say he gave me a choice between this and regular Moosehead because that's all they have where he lives, I would definitely pick this. It's a pretty decent beer, pretty tasty. It's got a little bit of a hoppiness, a little bit sweet, but not overly so. I'll go 6.5 on personal enjoyment. It's right on the low end of good, but it's still in the realm of good, and I don't know why everyone has to shit on it so much. I think he just thought I want to be mean to Nick because it's from his hometown.
I feel like you got a different batch or something.
We've shit, as far as the style goes, we've shit less on worse beers, I think, maybe on this whole thing. That's
coming from Craig who didn't like Fuller's Vintage. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because it's a shit beer, and now the company's sold out. So who's laughing now?
There you go. A sight. All right. So, my personal thoughts. Well, there might be a little bit of bias here because of this nostalgia factor when it comes to Moosehead Pale Ale. I actually find it not too bad, and I don't know, maybe I've just got a fresher bottle of it or something, but I do get a nice big maltier note coming off the top of this one here, and a heavier body than I'm used to with drinking the lager. Like, I find that the lager is so damn easy drinking and so sessionable, whereas this one kind of sticks in your craw a little bit more. And which I would expect a little slightly hit craw mouth. Anyway, back of the throat. So I find it, it's a little bit more heavier body. At the same time, it's not quite you would expect for like a British or a European style pale ale. It is. I'm not really surprised with this one being more macro-like because it is kind of like Moosehead's pale ale that they've been making ever since the unbroken since the late 20s, I think it was, or no, it was 1931 or something like that it first came out. And it's during that whole fallow time that like basically all brands of beer started to turn more and more like water to compete with the more cleaner drinking lagers, like premium lager trend that happened in the 90s, and where breweries could actually get away with being using less ingredients and more water in their shit. But I digress. I actually feel like this has gotten a bit maltier and a little bit more stronger in flavor than I'm used to in recent years. It used to go down much easier than this, I find. And I'm not sure if I really like that change, but overall, I still have a soft spot for that beer. And while I don't think it's like highly rated for the style, I'm going to give it a 5.5 for the style. Maybe not as, I think that's the best of everybody here. But as far as overall enjoyment, I still really like this beer. So 7.5 or overall. But that's just me.
It's just like I had
that's how you should end every single one of your new videos that you're uploading. But that's just me.
That's just
but that's just my opinion.
No, hey.
I'll say my own opinion.
If you end it with, but that's just me, I think that would catch on. We totally would. Jamie totally wouldn't make all the gifts on that one.
I know. Actually, the last couple of reviews I've done of like off camera, like to be uploaded soon, have either contained "fuck you, Joe" or "fuck you, Ewart."
Nice.
You spit a little bit in your one of your last reviews. It was pretty funny to see.
The hell was I ranting about something?
No, the Crowler. I can't remember what it was, but the name of it. You were saying the name of it, and it was like you you said the name of it. It was funny.
The Cerveza, the one from Holy Whale.
Yeah, whatever the name of it was, you were saying that name, and it just like it was pretty funny.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sexy time. All right. So, do we have any more comments sitting there?
We got a couple. Yeah. Ewart came in and said, "Fuck your thoughts, Nick." And then he said, "Ashley, just say it. The beer is shit." While Ashley was going through, Ashley was basically saying that, but not saying that kind of thing.
So we Eric, scientific way.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, Eric says, "I heard someone drank Alpine from the other room. Still better than Wildcat." I'm not quite sure what he means by that.
Not as good as Kokanee.
Raining on Your Parade had this beer years ago. Yeah. He's agreeing with Ashley. Eric says it's solid beer, clean, grassy, a bit spicy and crushable, does the job. And then he says MGD, baby.
MGD, baby.
Yeah, I mean, really, the overall flavor, if you were to call this a lager, there would probably be different opinions. It's more like MGD in that department. It's a bit maltier, pepperier.
Just does not come off as any kind of a pale ale to me at all.
No.
I just find it inoffensive and fairly easy to drink. So
it's not offensive. Don't get me wrong.
Like when you
It's
compare
all
it to like Moose Green, Moose Green. There I'm getting the Maritimer. If you compare it to the Moosehead Lager, this doesn't. No, I like the Moosehead Lager just because that one's a nice crusher.
Like I said, I wish I had
beer.
one of. I wish I had one of each, just so I could, because I feel like I agree with Chris, but I don't want to fully agree because I feel like
find
they can't. They
Pale
shouldn't
Ale
do
is
that.
a different beer from the Moosehead Lager, but I find that Moosehead Lager may not necessarily be a different beer from the Alpine.
So basically, we need to do a Beer Nuts 101 comparison, the first one ever. Come on, Nick.
Yeah.
I got to buy this beer again.
Yeah.
This fuck that shit.
Yeah, we'll have to
You know
do
what?
it.
Hey, Ash, you want to pick
next
up a
time-
12 pack and we'll
No,
split it? Give me one, you can
never.
have 11.
Next time we do something
No.
along the lines of this, if there's something if there's something in the future that has kind of this potential, we should keep that in mind because I would be down. I don't want to buy another can of this personally, but for a comparison video, I would do it.
It used to be, I think, in Ontario, you had to buy like a 2-4 of Moosehead Pale to get it. But now you guys get it in cans. Like, how much is it in cans? $3.20 or something like that?
It wasn't expensive.
$2.80 maybe.
$2.80.
Oh
Yeah,
god!
I've never actually even
Why worry
reviewed.
about it?
I've never
I got
reviewed
mine. I think
Moosehead or this beer, so maybe I'll just do my own comparison on my channel.
I think I got this one at the beer store itself. I don't think I got it years ago.
Yeah, they are completely sold out of the LCBO on this stuff. The LCBO.
My LCBO is not sold out at all. There's
really?
so much of this. Oh yeah,
Well,
it's all over the
there's
place.
only two people in North Bay. I mean, buying beer.
If you don't like it that much, it's not a beer I would run out to buy either. So it's
Yeah,
For
3
me, it's
LCBOs
something
and 3 beer stores. It's too
for me, it's something I can get relatively cheap, and it's made on the west side. So it's usually I get it pretty friggin' fresh here. But these days, I gravitate more to the lager than I do the pale ale.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
you
No,
go
go
ahead, Chris. You
Oh, I was just gonna ask Kerry if he had how many more IPA number 8s did he buy?
None.
Okay, go ahead, Ash.
I lost my train of thought. Oh no, I was gonna say yeah, I would probably reach for like just a regular Moosehead Lager again over the pale ale.
I would too.
But I think you guys are onto something. I wouldn't be surprised if the actual brewing of the beer of the pale ale is identical to the lager, and then they just use the same. Well, I don't know if they could use the same yeast strain for both, but they probably just take the same beer and then just split the batch. You know what I mean?
Maybe it is a different recipe, and then they're using lager yeast to make it. I don't know.
You mean I'd say it's the same recipe and then 2 different yeast strains.
That's very well possible too. I don't know. Maybe that's one became the other. Maybe the pale ale was made with ale yeast, and then the lager was based off the same recipe with the lager yeast to be cleaner and more fresh. Anyway, the lager came out to be released onto the U.S. market because they wanted to break out into the States, and they sort of did. But it's the only beer that was ever successful there. Anyway, all right, we ready for the final scores?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
How badly did we plummet this one?
It's not terrible, but not great either. Moosehead Pale Ale scores a 3.3 of the style because everybody sucks, and overall it's a 6.1. So not exactly the best showing for beer on Beer Analysis 101, but I'm glad we did it anyway.
I give it a 4 and 6.
I actually feel like we were like when you were saying we were generous before. Don's Choice, that one, we were generous with the style on that one. I feel like
I think we were very generous on the style on that one.
really generous on the style.
It really
I'm pretty
was.
sure I shit on the style on that one.
Yeah, so I know
Me
somebody did, and you know what? You're right because it's not really much of a black IPA. At the same time,
right.
what is a
That's
black
why
IPA? It's not really. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
mashup of styles rather than style.
Black IPA, in my experience, a good solid black IPA is like a good IPA mixed with a good stout. Both those qualities kind of intermingling. That's what a good IPA is.
It's going to take over from the other. Is it going to be more malty or is it going to be more hoppy? Because then you get the hoppy. Is it a black IPA or Cascadian Dark Ale?
I feel like
I think
we're going off topic.
Anything
Yeah,
from innocent gun.
it's all Red
sorry,
Beard's fault.
sorry. Yeah, I do that sometimes.
Let's stick with the beer.
We can
Let's
talk
talk about the beer. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
All right, so read the comments here. Who wants to read the comments? And I'm not talking about Tech Murray.
Oh, where were we? Where were we last time? MGD. Bring on your parade. If I see a can, I'll buy it. I didn't try too hard to find it, and even if I did, I probably would have had to buy a 12-pack. Fuck that. Teku Murray says, "Fuck your LCBO," and that little fucking stupid joke thing. And Rainy Your Parade says, "Let's do a style week next week. Belgian brown ale." I don't. That isn't that like.
Ask if Raining on His Parade is going to show up on for.
There's another channel that does those style kind of videos, and they generally aren't that fun to watch. Teku Murray calls North Bay the dustiest of wastelands because he has no idea what North Bay even is, apparently. There's so much more of a wasteland than North Bay.
Yeah, like there.
And then he called Rain on Your Parade's idea the dumbest idea. Chris asked, "What's the beer?" And I said, "What's next week's beer?" And then Eric Gilbert, "You got fucked by the LCBO, not the other way around." Ewart says the score was way too generous. Eric says Molson Stock Ale. Ewart says Molson Dry. Then Bradur. And then Eric says Labatt Crystal.
There's a bunch of beers I haven't seen. Somebody asked, "What's next week's beer?" But I'm pretty sure that both people that asked that question are on this panel, so I'm not sure if they really count. Somebody else.
Well, we're just going to sit here until somebody asks the right question.
Yeah, right. We'll have to sit here. I'll present.
Ask the fucking question, somebody. What's the beer next week? Come on, ask. Ask.
Chris, did you put cream on your burns so that you'll heal okay? We don't want anything to happen to your beautiful face.
No, hold on a second. There's a dog barking in the background. Oh, explosions! Explosions! Explosions!
Fine. You're I guess. So he says, Teku Murray says, next week's beer, Rating on Your Parade says NWB. We're going to go back to Hamilton.
Acronyms.
And we're going to do Jam Up the Mash from Collective Arts.
Or Mash or Jam, depending on
we're feeling a little sour for the start of February, so we're
excellent.
starting on a sour note.
Jesus, Nick, that was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Nick? I really appreciated that joke.
Whose channel you on?
I appreciated that joke, Nick. That actually sounded like that might have come from Peter. Probably not.
Peter probably wrote the joke.
Mm-hmm.
No, if Peter wrote the joke, it would have been a whole lot funnier.
So it's pretty much time to end this, no? No?
Yeah.
Si, senor.
Maybe? Time to end? Maybe?
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for everybody for looking at looking at Redbeard's penis.
Yeah, baby. In your face. In your face.
Right in your crop.
All right. Yeah, right in your crop. All right. On that note, we're going to go offline. We're going to come back online here in a bit. We'll do our usual after chat thing, and want to thank everybody for watching, everybody for coming on, and of course, penis.